This all happened back when I was 13, during one of our family's annual trips to northern Michigan in October. Every year, we'd pile into the cars and head up to my Uncle Jim's place. A solid 4-acre property with a big house that could sleep all of us comfortably. Uncle Jim was this rugged outdoorsy type, always going on hunting trips across the country. He'd drag my dad along sometimes. Even though Dad's more of an animal lover who wouldn't hurt a fly, the property had this chunk of dense forest out back, marked with red paint on the trees to show where his land ended and the county's wilderness began. Beyond that, it was just miles of empty woods, no neighbors, no roads, nothing. Looking back, that isolation should have been a red flag, but as kids, we thought it was awesome. My brother Adam was 10, and our cousins Jake and Joe were around the same age, Jake 10, Joe 9. We were the boys' club of the family, always getting into mischief. That year, over lunch, our dads were swapping hunting stories, getting a bit tipsy on beer, and we got this wild idea to camp out in the woods overnight. Just us four, no adults. I mean, we were excited, picturing ourselves as little adventurers, telling ghost stories and roasting marshmallows. Our dads were all for it. They were laughing, saying it'd build character. But our moms? Not so much. They kept saying we were too young, that the woods weren't safe at night. What if something happens? My mom asked, her voice all worried. Uncle Jim brushed it off with a chuckle. They're boys. They'll be fine. It's just a short hike from the house. Looking back, I should have listened to the moms. They had that gut instinct, you know? Anyway, our dads took us out there that afternoon to set up. We hiked past the red-marked trees into county land, where Uncle Jim pointed out this small clearing with soft, mossy ground he called deer beds. He'd camped there before, he said, perfect spot. The air was crisp, leaves crunching under our feet, that autumn smell of pine and damp earth everywhere. We helped pitch this huge tent, big enough for all of us kids, while our dads gave us a half-drunk lesson on knots and stakes. Joey, the youngest, started whining about how far it was, and our dads just teased him mercilessly. That's how they were when they got together, playful but kind of mean in a dad way. Once the tent was up, we tossed in our sleeping bags and headed back to the house for the rest of the day. We played tag and football outside until dinner, the sun dipping low and turning everything golden. At the table, our moms brought it up again. I don't like this, Aunt Karen said, glancing at us. They're just babies. But the dads won out, making jokes about how we'd be close enough for them to hear our screams if a bear showed up. Haha, right? My sister and girl cousins, Jamie and Christina, weren't interested. They stayed inside watching movies or whatever. It was a boys-only adventure. As the sky turned dark, our dads led us back out with flashlights swinging. The woods felt different at night. Colder, quieter, the kind of quiet where every rustle makes you jump. We were bundled in jackets, extra blankets tucked under our arms, and I had snuck a deck of Uno cards from the house. The tent was maybe a 10-minute walk from the property line, far enough that you couldn't see the house lights through the trees. No cell service out there either. It was like stepping into another world. Our dads wished us luck, slapped us on the backs, and trudged off, their laughter fading into the distance. Suddenly, it was just us. 4 kids in a flimsy tent, the October chill seeping through the fabric. We zipped up, arranged our flashlights in a circle to light the place like a lantern, and dove into Uno. It was fun at first, laughing, accusing each other of cheating, the cards slapping down. Time flew. We must have played for half an hour, the tent glowing warmly against the black outside. Joe was giggling, Adam trash-talking, Jake hoarding draw fours. I felt like the big brother in charge, keeping things light. But then, a scream, distant, high-pitched, like a girl's cry echoing through the trees. We all froze, cards mid-air, staring at each other with wide eyes. What was that? Joe whispered, his voice tiny. I tried to play it cool. I'd heard something on TV once about how foxes scream like women. It's probably just a fox, guys. They sound superhuman. No big deal. Everyone nodded, relieved, especially Joe. He looked like he was about to cry. We shook it off and kept playing. I won a few rounds, feeling smug, but deep down, a little knot formed in my stomach. It didn't sound exactly like an animal, But what else could it be? I pushed the thought away. We were deep into another game when it happened again. Louder this time, closer, definitely more human, like someone in pain. No mistaking it. The cards dropped. We went dead silent. Joe's face drained of color. "That's not a fox," Adam muttered, his voice shaking. I shushed him, heart pounding. "Turn off the lights," I whispered. We fumbled with the flashlights, plunging the tent into pitch black. The darkness pressed in, thick and suffocating, the only sound our ragged breathing. We crawled into our sleeping bags, huddling close. "What if it's a ghost?" Jake asked in a hush. "Or a serial killer?" Joe whimpered. I whispered back, "Nah, probably just the wind or something. Or maybe the girls trying to scare us." But I didn't believe it. Our sister and cousins were back at the house, and this scream, it had a raw edge, like real terror. We lay there, whispering theories, maybe a hurt hiker, a prank from the dads? But the house was too far. No one could have snuck out without us hearing. Minutes dragged like hours, the cold biting at our toes, every leaf rustle outside sounding like footsteps. Then we heard it, fast crunching on the leaves, approaching the tent. Thud, thud, thud. Deliberate, human. My blood turned to ice. We bolted upright, exchanging panicked glances in the dark. The footsteps stopped right outside, maybe feet away. Silence hung thick as fog. And then, an ear-piercing, gut-wrenching scream exploded, so close it rattled my bones. It sounded like a woman, agonized. Right there, the tent shook violently, fabric whipping like someone was grabbing and yanking it. We lost it, all of us screaming in pure terror. "Get out! Run!" I yelled, fumbling for the zipper. Jake and Joe were bawling, Adam shouting nonsense. I ripped the door open, and we tumbled out one by one, flashlights flicking on wildly. Beams cut through the night, trees looming like monsters. We bolted toward the house, feet pounding the ground, branches snagging our clothes. My heart hammered. I swore I heard pursuit behind us. More footsteps? Or just my imagination? The run felt endless, life or death, the cold air burning my lungs. "Don't look back," I gasped. Joe tripped once, sobbing. I hauled him up. We screamed the whole way, raw throats echoing in the woods. Finally, we burst onto the property, the house lights a beacon. Our family was already outside, flashlights sweeping, faces pale. "What happened?" Mom yelled, pulling us into hugs. We babbled it all. The screams, the shaking tent, the footsteps. They looked horrified. I accused the dads. "You sent the girls to prank us." But Uncle Jim shook his head, leading us inside. There were Jamie, Christina, and my sister, fast asleep in their beds. No mud on their shoes, no sign they'd been out. My stomach dropped. If not them, who? The dads grabbed rifles, Uncle Jim's hunting ones, and headed into the woods. We waited, huddled with the moms, sipping hot chocolate that did nothing to warm the chill in my soul. They came back empty-handed. No tracks, no one, nothing. "Probably just animals," Dad said, but his voice wavered. "I know it sounds crazy, but I think they were scared too." The next morning, we all trekked out to pack up the tent. The clearing looked innocent in daylight. Mossy ground, birds chirping. But the tent, it had these weird tears at the base like claws or hands had gripped it. No one mentioned it, we just folded it silently and left. That was the end of our camping adventures. We never played outside after dark again, sticking to the house like glue. Even now, years later, I avoid those woods. I still hear that scream in my dreams, human, but not quite. Was it a vagrant? A psycho lurking in the county land? Or something else? Looking back, I should have begged to stay inside. I question if we imagined parts of it, the fear messing with our heads. But 4 of us experienced the same thing. I can't explain it, and honestly, I don't want to. Some nights, when it's quiet, I swear I hear echoes in the wind, and it makes me wonder if whatever was out there is still waiting. I've never been one for ghost stories or anything like that. I mean, I'd watch a slasher flick with friends and laugh at the jump scares, but I always thought real life was too dull for that kind of terror. That changed in July 2023, when I was 17. My name's Tyler, and I'm from a small town in Michigan where the most exciting thing is the annual county fair. My dad decided it was time for a family adventure, dragging me and my little brother, Max, who was 14, on a camping trip to a state park about an hour north of home. He kept talking about bonding, getting us off our phones, but I think he just wanted to play outdoorsman for a weekend. I wasn't thrilled. Give me my gaming console over mosquitoes any day, but I went along to avoid another one of his lectures. When we pulled into the park, the woods felt wrong, too quiet, like the trees were watching us. I know it sounds crazy, but that's how it started, and what happened next still haunts me every time I close my eyes. We got to the park on a Friday afternoon, the sun high, a breeze rolling off the lake where we set up our tent. The campsite was basic: a fire pit, a picnic table, and a dirt path leading to hiking trails and thicker woods. Max was all hyped up, running around, throwing rocks into the water, while Dad unpacked like he was auditioning for a survival show. I helped set up the tent, mostly to avoid hearing, "Come on, Tyler, pitch in," for the 100th time. The day was fine: fishing, eating hot dogs, Dad telling stories about his old camping trips. Max ate it up, but I was just counting the hours until we could go home. That night, though, a storm crashed in out of nowhere. Thunder boomed so loud it shook the ground, and rain pounded the tent like it was trying to tear through. I lay there, wide awake, listening to the wind howl and the fabric flap, the ground turning to mud under my sleeping bag. You might be wondering why I didn't just sleep through it, but it felt like the storm was alive, like it was digging up something it wasn't supposed to. Saturday morning, the rain was gone, but the world was a soggy mess. The air was heavy with the smell of wet earth, pine, and something faintly sour I couldn't place. Our firewood was drenched, useless for a fire, so Dad sent me to find dry branches. "Head up that trail," he said, pointing to a path winding into the denser woods. "Look under the trees where the rain didn't hit as hard." Max stayed to help with breakfast, probably because he didn't want to deal with my complaining. I grabbed a backpack and headed out alone, my sneakers squishing in the mud, the fog so thick it turned the trees into blurry shadows. I wandered off the path, searching for anything not soaked, grumbling about how I could be playing Call of Duty instead. That's when I noticed a patch of ground that looked off lumpy, churned up dirt, maybe 6 feet long, like someone had been digging in a hurry. The rain had washed away the top layer, making it shallow, almost careless. I figured it was an animal burrow or some campers burying trash. But then my foot brushed against something soft, not dirt, but fabric, a scrap of gray cloth poking out of the mud. My heart started pounding, a cold prickle crawling up my neck. I crouched down, using a stick to push the dirt aside, telling myself it was probably nothing, just litter. Then I saw it. A hand, small and pale, nails caked with mud, fingers curled like they were reaching for something. I stumbled back, my breath catching, my stomach twisting. I should have run, but I couldn't stop myself. I dug a little more, hands shaking, and there she was, a girl, maybe 16 or 17, buried in a shallow grave. Her face was half covered in mud, eyes closed, lips gray, a torn hoodie clinging to her. Bruises circled her neck, dark and ugly, like someone had squeezed too hard. The rain must have caught the killer mid-dig, leaving her barely hidden. The smell hit me, rotten earth mixed with something sour, like death just starting to take hold. Every time I close my eyes now, I see her. Those bruises, that gray face, staring back like she's trying to tell me something. I sprinted back to camp, yelling for Dad, my voice cracking like I was 12 again. He thought I was joking until he saw my face, pale and sweating. "Tyler, what's wrong?" he asked, grabbing my shoulders. I could barely get the words out, stammering about the girl, the grave, the mud. We tried calling 911, but the signal was dead, typical for the middle of nowhere. Dad grabbed Max, and we hiked a mile to the ranger station, my legs shaking the whole way. I kept babbling, describing her hoodie, the bruises, how shallow the hole was. The rangers called the police, and within an hour, the woods were swarming with cops, yellow tape flapping in the breeze. They found her exactly where I said, but they couldn't identify her. No ID, no missing person match, just a Jane Doe, dead maybe a day or two. A detective pulled me aside in the ranger's office, his voice low. "She was sexually assaulted," he said. "Whoever did this probably went too far. Didn't mean to kill her." I felt sick, my mind racing. The grave was so shallow. Someone was coming back to finish it. And they'd be pissed I found her. Ruined their plan to hide her forever. Had they seen our tent? Our campfire? The cops asked if I'd seen anyone. Heard anything weird? "Nothing," I said, but I kept thinking about the storm, how it must have stopped the killer from digging deeper. What if they were still out there, watching? The detective said it was likely a drifter, someone passing through the park, but they had no leads, no suspects. They took my statement, and I sat there, shaking. The image of her face burned into my head. Those closed eyes, the mud in her hair. We packed up and left that afternoon, Dad driving in silence, Max curled up in the back, quiet for once. I kept checking the side mirrors, expecting to see a figure in the trees, someone angry I'd messed up their cover-up. Back home, I scoured local news sites, Reddit, anything. Nothing about the girl, just a vague article about an unidentified body found in State Park. No name, no answers. It's been over 2 years, and they still don't know who she was or who killed her. The police called once, a follow-up, but said the case was cold, no DNA matches, no witnesses. I can't stop seeing her face. Every time I close my eyes, she's there. Gray lips, bruised neck, like she's begging me to find who did it. I don't camp anymore, won't even go near the woods behind our house. I keep thinking about the killer, how furious they must be that I found her before they could bury her properly. What if they saw me? Our tent was only a quarter-mile away, our fire visible at night. I told Dad about it, but he says it's just trauma, that I need to let it go. But at night, when it rains, I hear the storm again, and sometimes footsteps outside my window, slow, deliberate, like someone's pacing. I check the locks, pull the curtains, but it doesn't help. Last week, I found a scrap of gray fabric caught in my backyard fence, like the one in the grave. It was probably nothing, just a rag blown in by the wind. But I burned it anyway because deep down I'm terrified the killer knows who I am, and they're not done. I used to think the woods were the perfect escape, a place to leave behind the stress of deadlines and emails. After what happened last summer, though, I can't even look at a tree line without my heart racing. My name's Emma. I'm 26, and I live in upstate New York, grinding away at a marketing job that sucks the life out of me. My best friend, Ryan, also 26, is a graphic designer who's just as fed up with the daily slog. In August 2024, we decided to go camping in the Adirondacks for a weekend, just the two of us, to unplug and recharge. We chose a remote spot in a state park, far from the noisy RV campgrounds, dreaming of bonfires, beers, and maybe some stars bright enough to make us feel small in a good way. Looking back, I should have listened to that uneasy feeling when we hiked in. The forest was too quiet, like it was waiting for something to go wrong. I know it sounds dramatic, but someone was out there, and they spent 2 nights turning our getaway into a nightmare we'll never shake. We arrived Friday afternoon, finding a small clearing by a creek, surrounded by dense pines and moss-covered rocks. The air was thick with the smell of sap and damp earth, the sunlight filtering through the canopy in soft, golden patches. Ryan and I set up our 2-person tent, bickering playfully about who was better at hammering stakes. He's the kind of guy who talks tough but jumps at shadows, so I took charge of the fire pit, stacking logs like I knew what I was doing. The day was perfect, hiking a nearby trail, the crunch of leaves under our boots, the creek gurgling like it was happy to see us. We laughed, took dumb selfies, and felt like we'd escaped the world. That evening, we built a fire, cracked open a cooler of beers, and swapped stories about our wild college nights, the flames casting long shadows on the trees. Around 10 p.m., though, the woods changed. The crickets stopped, the owls went silent, and the only sound was the fire's crackle. Ryan glanced into the darkness, his smile fading. "It's too quiet," he said, half joking, but his eyes were uneasy. I felt it too, a prickle on my neck, but told myself it was just the forest settling. You might be wondering why we didn't notice it sooner, but it's hard to pin down when calm turns creepy. The first night started with small, unsettling things. Around 11:30 p.m., as we sat by the fire, a twig snapped sharp, maybe 30 yards into the woods. Ryan froze, his beer halfway to his mouth. "You hear that?" he whispered, his voice low. I nodded, grabbing the flashlight from my bag, its beams slicing through the darkness. Nothing, just pines and underbrush swaying faintly. Another snap, closer, deliberate, like someone stepping carefully, testing the ground. "Maybe a deer," I said, trying to sound calm, but my heart was pounding. Deer don't move like that, with rhythm, with intent. We listened, the firelight flickering on our faces, the air growing colder. Then came a low whistle, tuneless, eerie, drifting from the trees, maybe 20 yards away. It moved, circling the clearing, slow and mocking. My skin crawled, my hands clammy. Ryan pulled out his pocket knife, his knuckles white. "That's no animal," he muttered, his voice barely steady. We doused the fire, the smoke stinging my eyes, and scrambled into the tent, zipping it tight. "Probably some drunk camper," I said, but my voice sounded hollow, unconvincing. Inside, the darkness pressed against the thin nylon walls, every rustle amplified. Around 1 a.m., footsteps started, soft, deliberate, circling just outside the tent. They'd pause, then move again, like someone was savoring our fear. Then came a faint scratching, like nails dragging across the fabric, slow and rhythmic, right by my head. I bit my lip to keep from screaming, my breath shallow. Ryan whispered, "Emma, what the hell is that?" I couldn't answer, my throat tight. A voice broke the silence, low, raspy, so close it felt like they were leaning against the tent. "You don't belong here." My blood ran cold. Ryan gripped his knife tighter, but I grabbed his arm. "Don't open it," I hissed. "They want us to." The scratching stopped, but the footsteps continued, circling, taunting, until the sky began to lighten. We didn't sleep, just sat there, clutching each other, waiting for dawn. Saturday morning, the woods looked deceptively normal, sunlight glinting off the creek, birds chirping again. We crawled out, exhausted, expecting footprints or some proof. Nothing. The ground was too clean, like someone had swept their tracks away. Then I saw it. A small, carved wooden figure on the picnic table, no bigger than my hand, with a smooth, featureless face. It wasn't there last night. Ryan picked it up, then dropped it like it burned him. "Someone's messing with us," he said, his voice shaking, eyes wide with fear. I wanted to agree to call it a prank, but that doll felt wrong, like it was staring at us. We debated packing up, but Ryan got stubborn. "We're not letting some creep win," he said, jaw tight. I wasn't so sure, but I didn't want to look like a coward. We stayed, convincing ourselves it was a one-off, maybe kids from another site. We spent the day fishing, trying to shake the unease, but I kept scanning the trees, feeling eyes on me, the air heavy with something I couldn't name. Saturday night was worse, way worse. We built a smaller fire, kept the flashlight and knife close, and stayed near the tent, barely talking. Around 9 p.m., the woods went silent again, that same suffocating hush. Then we heard a laugh, low, guttural, echoing from the trees, not friendly but cruel, like someone was enjoying our fear. Ryan's face paled. "They're back," he whispered, gripping his knife. Footsteps followed, heavier, crunching leaves, circling faster, like they were closing in. I shone the flashlight, catching a shadow, tall, thin, darting between trees, too quick to be sure. My stomach twisted into knots. The whistling returned, sharper, mocking, joined by tapping, rhythmic like someone knocking on wood, moving from tree to tree. It was deliberate, a game to make us feel trapped. Around 11 p.m., something new. A faint hum, like a chant, low and dissonant, coming from multiple directions. Like there was more than one person out there. My hands shook so badly I dropped the flashlight. We retreated to the tent, zipping it shut, the air inside stifling. The noises didn't stop. The scratching came back, harder, like claws raking the tent's base, testing it. Something heavy brushed the side, making the fabric sag inward, and I stifled a scream, clutching Ryan's arm. "They're right there," he whispered, his voice breaking. The voice came again, closer, rasping through the nylon. "Run, and we'll find you." It wasn't one voice. There were two, overlapping, one deeper, one higher, both dripping with malice. My heart stopped. Rocks and sticks started hitting the tent, thudding against the fabric, one tearing a small rip near the door. Through it, I saw a shadow, tall, hunched, lingering just beyond my flashlight's beam, joined by another, shorter figure. They didn't move, just stood there, watching. We sat paralyzed, the air thick with the smell of fear and damp nylon, until dawn's light finally silenced the noises. Sunday morning, we emerged, shaking, to a scene straight out of a nightmare. The clearing was littered with pebbles and sticks, arranged in a jagged spiral around our tent, like some twisted ritual. The wooden doll was back on the table, now with a carved smile that wasn't there before, its edges sharp, almost mocking. Our cooler was overturned, food scattered, an apple sliced open with a bite taken out, left like a taunt. A note was pinned to the tent flap with a rusty nail, scrawled in jagged handwriting. "You were warned. Leave." My hands trembled as I read it, the words burning into my brain. Ryan was pale, muttering, "We're done. We're out." As we packed, I heard that whistle again, sharp, taunting from the trees. I spun around, but the trail was empty. Hiking out, every snap of a twig made us flinch, the feeling of being followed like a weight on our chests. I kept seeing shadows in my peripheral vision, always gone when I looked. We drove straight to the ranger station, spilling everything, the footsteps, the whistling, the voices, the doll, the note, the spiral. The ranger, a grizzled guy with tired eyes, listened but didn't seem shocked. "Sounds like locals messing with campers," he said. "Happens sometimes. People don't like outsiders." He promised to check the area but warned us not to go back. "Some folks out here get a kick out of scaring people," he added, his tone flat. I asked if others had reported this. He paused, then said, "A few hikers last year mentioned noises, weird stuff left behind. Never caught anyone. That made it worse." We drove home, Ryan gripping the wheel, me checking the mirrors, half expecting a figure in the back seat. I couldn't shake the feeling we'd brought something back with us, like the woods had marked us. A week later, the police called. They'd caught two guys, adult males, early 30s, locals with a history of petty crimes, busted for harassing campers in the same park. They confessed to targeting us, said it was a game to scare city folks, using whistles, carvings, and notes to freak us out. They'd watched us from the trees, planned every move to make us feel hunted. The police found the carved doll and some of our scattered food in their truck, along with other campers' belongings. They were charged with stalking and vandalism, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. Ryan and I are wrecks. I can't sleep without checking every window, hearing that whistle in every gust of wind. Ryan moved his bed to the center of his room, says he sees shadows outside at night. Last month, I found a smooth pebble on my doorstep, scratched with that same carved smile. I burned it in my sink, but I check my locks 10 times now. The police say it's over, those guys are locked up, but I don't believe it. What if they had friends? What if someone else was out there, watching, waiting to pick up where they left off? We're forever scarred, and the woods will never feel safe again. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe and hit the bell for more scares every week. Stay safe out there, you never know what's lurking. See you next time.